In this video, we're going to look at how to calculate tax and discount prices for items. It's a very useful skill. We always have to do this when we go shopping. So, for example, a McDonald's coffee costs $1.99. What is its final price after 13% tax? We know we pay tax in Ontario and in Canada, and right now the tax is 13%. So you will have to pay this if you go to McDonald's and buy a coffee or a hot chocolate or whatever, or fries, whatever you're going to buy. So how do we do this? I like doing it like this. I'm going to start off with my bar again. You know I like the bar. The bar that goes from 0% to 100%. So we know 100% of the cost, the full cost, is $1.99, right? And this would be $0 down here. If we're saying the final price is 13% more, it's like we're adding on 13%, right? So we have the total price, but we add another 13%, right? We're making the bar longer. So we're not just paying the full price of the coffee, but we're adding some more on top. And that takes us to 113%. We just took that 100% and we added the 13% on top. So in order to find this, the total price, it's going to be 113% of $1.99. So it's very similar to the questions you were doing on the previous page. So rewriting it, it would be 113% of $1.99. So we do this in the exact same way that we would solve the problems on the previous page. And remember, the problems on the previous page, we did it by converting 113% to a decimal first. So it would be 113% over 100, right? And that turns it into a decimal. So that would be 1.13 as a decimal. And then we're going to multiply by the total cost, which was $1.99. So if we do this, 1.13 times $1.99, that gives us $2.2487. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of decimal places there. Usually when we work with money, we like to sort of take the first two decimal places, right? So we're going to look at that 2.4, and at the end, the 2.4, the next digit's an 8, so we would round it up to 2.5, right? So the final cost would be $2.25. And this is what you would actually pay if you were to buy this coffee from McDonald's. You'd see on the cash register, the total would come up to $2.25. There you go. So I want you to try to follow the exact same process for a movie ticket that costs $14.25. How much would it cost if we added 13% tax to that? Pause the video here, try it yourself, unpause to see the answer. And there we go. So we added 13% onto that total, right? Which gave us 113% again. And we want to find 113% of 14.25. So we find the decimal first, which is 1.13, and then multiply by 14.25, which takes us to our total cost of $16.10. So that's how much you'd actually pay if movie tickets were $14.25. So below, I have 3 more questions, which are very similar, just with sometimes some of them have different taxes or different amounts on there. I want you to try these 3 questions yourself and check your answers with the answers at the bottom of the page. Okay? Pause the video. Do that now. So I didn't do the full solutions for you, but I'm going to help you get started if you were stuck on any of these. So for the first one, we're adding 13% tax to it. So that means the total percentage we're going to pay is 113% because it's going to be the 100% plus the 13%, right? So that's how we're going to do it. We're going to do that. So we would do 113 divided by 100 times 250. For the second one, it's 15% tax. So instead of 113%, it's going to be 100% plus 15% tax, which is 115% of the original price, which that's what you're going to do. And then lastly, so it's saying the price goes up by 5%. This is actually the exact same thing as adding like a 5% tax. So to add 5% to something, you're starting with 100% and you're adding 5% to it. So it's going to be 105% of the total cost. There you go. So if you do that, you should get these answers at the bottom of the page. The next thing we can do is discounts. So discounts are usually given as percentages as well. For example, a movie theater offers 25% off its regular price tickets. The regular price is $13.50. Obviously, it's a different movie theater than the one on the previous page because it's a different price. Or maybe it's Tuesday. I think movies are cheaper on Tuesday. So here we have 0% and here we have 100%. And the total cost is usually $13.50, right? And this would be $0 down here. So this is the trick. If it's saying it's 25% off, it's like we started at 100% and we removed 25% of it. So the amount we pay is not 100% anymore. It's 100% minus 25%. What does that give us? Well, 100% minus 25% should give us 75%. So we're paying 75% of the original cost. So all we have to do, it's the same thing as before, 75% of $13.50. And in order to do that, we're going to do the same process before. We're going to turn it into a decimal, 75% over 100%, which gives us 0.75. And then we multiply by the total cost, $13.50. So we should end up with a number that's less than our starting amount, right? Because there's a discount. So 0.75 times $13.50 gives us $10.125. Again, when we're working with money, we like to do 2 decimal places, right, to the nearest cent. So we're going to round that $10 and 0.125 to $10.13, right? So that's it, which makes sense. It's less than $13.50, right? So we can put the $10.13 in there. Okay? So when we have a discount, we're usually subtracting it from the 100%. That's the only difference here. So I want you to try this question about a WestJet flight. So if you're flying to Tampa, Florida, usually it costs $435.20, but if it's 45% off, how much will it be? Okay? Pause the video here, try it yourself. So the trick here is that we need to subtract the 45% from the 100%. So that means it's going to cost 55% of the initial price, right? So really what we're trying to find is 55% of that $435.20. So we do that by doing 55 over 100 multiplied by the total cost. Notice how I didn't write out the decimal like I did in the previous question. It would have been 0.55, but that's okay if you skip that step as long as you know what you're doing. So that is the correct answer. What I want you to do is I want you to try these next 3 questions yourself. Okay, pause the video here, try them yourself, unpause, and I will help you answer them if you're stuck. So there are the first 2 ones. That's how you go about doing them. So question 1, it's saying 25% off. So when we take 25% off of 100%, we're left with 75%. So all you got to do is calculate 75% of $250. And if you do that, you should get this answer down here at the bottom. Next, if we take 5% off of 100%, we're left with 95%. So 95% of the cost of the calculator, $18.25, should give you the answer down here. Now this one is a little bit trickier. So I wanted to go through this one with you. Hopefully you tried it. Maybe you got a little bit stuck, and that's okay. So in this question, it's a telescope that costs $455.99. It's on sale for 10% off, but then you pay tax on it. So the trick to this kind of question, there's a lot of things going on. The trick to it is to do 2 steps. First, you do the discount. Then you do the tax. So only worry about one at a time. And the other thing to remember is that tax always comes last because the tax is always added on to the final price after the discount. So always do tax last. So let's forget about the tax for a second. So let's just ignore that for a second. You don't have to actually scribble it on your page. I'm just doing it so it's not as confusing. Let's first find out how much the 10% off is. Well, if we do that, 10% off is the equivalent of saying 90% of the original price, right? So we're going to do 90% as a decimal, which is 0.9, times the original price, which is $455.99. If I do that on my calculator, 0.9 times $455.99, it's $410.39 if I round to the nearest cent. So that's how much it costs after the discount. But then we have tax on that. So the trick now is to, we want to include the tax, right? But we can forget about the discount because we've already taken that into account. So we now know how much sort of the total cost is that we need to add the tax to. So when we add the tax, we're going to end up with 113% of the original cost, right? Or this amount. So all we want to do is we want to do 113% of the discount price of $410.39. I'll let you do that part. If you do it, you should come out with this answer. Let me try it on my calculator. 100 times 410.39 to see if it comes out, and it does. Okay, so you should come out to this answer down here if you do this correctly. Okay, so when we have a tax and a discount, always do the tax last. Okay, good work. So now there are some more problems that you can work on the last few pages. Give them a shot. The answers are at the bottom. And remember, you can always ask your teacher if you're stuck on something.